Triple H had clearly had enough and been like, all right, can we just get it off him now?
It's just jet lagged coming back from Saudi Arabia. It's like, I don't care.
I've had enough of
I've
this
had
now.
enough of this. Book whatever. Yeah, Dana Brooke loses the belt. Ooh, and then Nikki Cross throws it in the trash. I don't really give a crap at this point.
Support WrestleTalk!
Hello and welcome to this reactive news episode. I'm Chopper P. Cornell. I'm joined by Luke Owen, DAD. I remember to do the DAD, aren't
Thank
I
you,
special? Today we're going to be talking about this little tweet from one Dana Brooke following this week's episode of Raw. Because, Luke, on this episode of Raw, it seems like they might be done with the 24/7 title.
It would certainly seem that way, wouldn't it? Everyone thought that Mia Yim was the biggest return on this episode. It turns out it was actually the 24/7 title being defended.
Exactly.
Was the big return for this episode of Raw. And Dana Brooke then lost that title to Nikki Cross in a... I said in my edited review it's a heatless match, but that is slightly unfair because everything was heatless on this show because this crowd was awful. And Nikki Cross just won the belt. And I really thought when I was watching this, I was like, that's the end of the title. I was like, Nikki Cross is going to smash this belt up now because she's crazy and she's unhinged, and that will be it, done, dead and donezo. That is the end of the 24/7 title. Then Bayley just puts it on her shoulder and I was like, well, I guess she's just going to keep the belt then. And then I was on Twitter later on and I saw someone post up the video from WWE's YouTube channel where Nikki Cross throws it into the trash.
It is very funny.
So funny.
Because she's not looking. She's not looking. The bin is beside her and she just walks past and is supposed to just kind of drop the title off her shoulder into the trash. But she's not looking, so she misses and it just goes on the floor.
It hits the rim and falls off. And my first thought was, you could have done a second take. like you just thought, all right, well, I haven't really got time. This belt means so little. I'm not even going to justify wasting up hard drive space with doing a second take of this.
One take wonder, a lot of them. But Dana Brooke, in response to all of this stuff happening on Raw, her dropping the title seemingly being gotten rid of or retired, didn't seem too happy because she took to Twitter to say, everything I've worked for and tried to elevate, literally in the trash. Hashtag WWE, at WWE, at USA Network.
Some poor intern at the USA Network is going to have no idea, A, who this person is, or B, what she's talking about. They're just like scrolling through all the tweets about people being really happy with the new series of Chucky, and then just be like, who the hell is Dana Brooke? Did she work on this show? What's in the trash now?
She was my SmackDown Women's Champion on the Monday Night War, Luke.
She was, you're right. Probably the longest running 24/7 champ.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the Gronk, because he didn't show up on TV for years.
I forgot that was a person. Oh,
She
man.
hasn't defended the belt for like so long.
Yeah.
So I think, unless she's been doing it on house shows. I haven't checked Cage Match in a while.
No, to be fair, no. So what I want to talk about is, obviously Dana seems to be upset with these booking decisions around it. And really, the question isn't necessarily, should she be upset? Because she's entitled to feel however she wants to feel. But, like, what do you feel about the 24/7 and this decision to remove it from TV? Like, do you think Dana Brooke is what's the word I'm looking for? Legitimate in her feelings?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because she's completely entitled to feel how she feels.
Yeah.
And when she won this belt, there really was this swathe of like, oh, Dana Brooke's finally getting the opportunity. There was a lot of like, veteran women within the WWE locker room that were like, finally Dana Brooke is getting her flowers. And I mean, me and Ollie were reviewing Raw at the time. We were like, yeah, but it's the 24/7 title. Like, this is a joke belt that was once used to hide Drake Maverick's dick. Like, this is not a real belt. This is in a world, a wrestling world where all belts are fake. This was the fakest of all of them.
It sure
and
was.
And the one that meant the least. And it just felt really weird that everyone was like, oh, well done, Dana Brooke. Like, she's really worked hard and earned this chance. I was like, what? What are we talking about here? Pat Patterson won this belt by standing up. Like, this isn't a real thing. Because he can't take a bump, or he couldn't take a bump.
Smashing those glass ceilings.
Yeah, exactly. She smashed those glass ceilings. But it's the 24/7 title. It means kind of nothing. And so, like, it's then you kind of take this approach of, like, why are you this upset about what is a joke belt that clearly was not going to be pushed under the Triple H reign? But like, I mean, Dana's got a bit of history with this because she was upset a couple of weeks ago on Raw when I think it was Rollins made that comment about her. They'd been like, "Oh, Theory's got a better chance of cashing in on Dana than he does on Roman Reigns or me," and Dana took exception to that. And even on this episode of Raw, Corey Graves said at the end of that match was so short, I didn't get a chance to say anything that Dana Brooke will complain about on Twitter.
And I actually didn't know that.
And instead, she complained about this. she still found something.
Twitter. Yeah. See, the thing is, I can totally understand that, like, it's a 24/7 title. It's a joke belt. It never really meant anything. And it was never pushed in the WWE system. It was never going to be pushed in the Vince McMahon era, let alone the Triple H era. I can also see the side, though, that this meant something to Dana. This meant something to her, and I think she totally has a right to feel upset if she feels slighted. And I think if you wanted to retire the 24/7 title, maybe you could have done it in a slightly more respectful way than missing putting it in the bin.
Yeah,
you know?
well, yeah, I mean, you could have just done, like, the way they got rid of the Hardcore Championship the first time round was, I think they just merged it with another belt. Like, it was like Dreamer and whoever the IC champ was. I think this is the case. And then they just merged the two belts together.
Yeah.
And so you could have had Dana have a match with Bianca Belair and say, look, it's a title unification match. And Bianca Belair wins, and you just retire the 24/7 champion. And Belair goes out as the final 24/7 champ ever.
I think even your idea of saying that Nikki Cross wins it and then smashes the belt up, not in like a disrespectful, like, I don't care about this title, but because she's crazy,
Yeah.
she could just smash up the belt, and it would feel like, oh, that's like a disrespectful thing for a heel to do, not like a, oh, no one cares about the 24/7 title.
You can then use that as a story for Dana Brooke then.
Yeah, exactly.
He was like, you know, he still carries this belt around. Like, it means something to her.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily the best story.
Not at
because
all.
It is a joke belt and always has been. But I can understand why Dana might feel slighted coming out of this, because it is kind of a running thing that, like, lol 24/7 champion Dana Brooke is always like, she's the butt of the joke quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
When she's tried her best, probably, to elevate this title into something meaningful. And it was never given the chance to be that.
No, and I guess obviously we're not seeing this because we're not going to all of these live shows, but she's probably been on all the house shows defending this belt. I mean, as I said, I don't know because I'm not checking Cage Match regularly enough to see this, but I would wager that she's probably on every house show. And that is really a case of trying her best to make this belt feel like it is something. Like to her, it does mean something.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, is that it was never going to mean anything because it's the 24/7 title.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you can try as hard as you want, but no one's going to care about the European Championship. You know what I mean? Like, you can really try and you can put on great matches. And I probably she wasn't even getting the chance of that because we were probably getting like 2.5 minutes. So it's never going to be taken seriously. So, like, I applaud her for the effort, but it's kind of, I would argue, wasted effort.
It does really feel like that. But I think the other interesting side to this is that obviously the 24/7 has seemingly been retired at this point. But also on this episode of Raw, Austin Theory as Mr. Money in the Bank was also gotten rid of, failed the cash in on the US champion, no less. Which kind of just feels like the last remaining pieces of the Vince McMahon era of WWE are very slowly just being chipped away and just gotten rid of on this show to make it fully the Triple H show. And we said, you know, when Triple H took over, that it would take several months for all the changes to kind of kick in to be Triple H's true WWE vision. And this feels like another step towards, let's just get rid of all the things that Vince McMahon did and we'll get to what I want to do.
Yeah, the Austin Theory one was a startling one to me because Theory hasn't been winning on TV, but that's not unique to the Triple H era because he wasn't winning on TV when Vince was in charge anyway, because Vince's booking method was, well, you've got the Money in the Bank briefcase, we can beat you like a drum because eventually you'll be world champion and all those losses will be forgotten about.
Yeah.
So Triple H, it felt like he was just doing the same thing. He was just being beaten on TV every single week. He beat Shelton Benjamin on this week's episode of Raw. It was Baron Corbin that beat Cedric. And even on commentary, we're like, oh, that ends that losing slump that Austin Theory has been in. And then he cashes in at the end of the night and looks like a complete chump because he didn't look great and he didn't look smart and he was made to look quite foolish. And like every time I look at it and I think about it more, I'm like, was this the best you could come up with? Like, clearly you didn't want him to have Money in the Bank, but this was your best way out of it. Like, I just feel that everyone online had much better ideas of what to do. You and I talked about this on the WrestleTalk podcast. Have him hold it until Mania. And be like, that's the last opportunity he's got. So he's frantically, like, every month, this ticking clock. And he then becomes the first person to hold it and never cash it in. That at least is something interesting character-wise.
And that's what the reports were saying, was they wanted to do something unique with it. And what turns out what unique was cash it in for the US title and also fail.
But it's really felt like in the last 20 minutes of this episode of Raw, Triple H was like, yep, well, let's get rid of the last little bits of the Vince era. And this is now my baby now. We're getting rid of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. We're just putting it back on WrestleMania. Reportedly. And I think that probably will happen next year. And we'll just, like, Money in the Bank has not meant anything for years.
Which sucks, because it's such a good concept.
Certainly on the men's side of things. The women's side of things, they just hold on to it for a handful of hours and then cash it in, and then tend to have really bad runs. Nikki ASH and Dana Brooke, then Liv Morgan.
Yes.
Being the other one. But like on the men's side of things, I think Big E is the only one in like the 10-year span since the Rollins cash in where it's actually been like, oh, at least that was good. Every other male cash in has been pretty pants and non-eventful. And I guess that's why, like, when I did my review of Raw, like, I wasn't that mad upset about Theory cashing in and failing, because I never really cared about him holding the belt, the thing anyway. And I was like, well, he's never going to be world champion, so yeah, I guess this is a way out of it.
I think to maintain some of the vestiges of prestige that Money in the Bank still has, maybe you could have had him attempt to cash in on Roman and fail. Same end result, but at least it's for the world title rather than the US.
And not only that, Pete, it was the second time that Rollins had issued an open challenge for the evening. And Austin Theory thought, well, now's my opportunity to cash in Money in the Bank on a night with open contracts. Absolute moron.
It's whatever. Triple H clearly had enough and been like, all right, can we just get it off him now?
It's just jet lagged coming back from Saudi Arabia. It's like, I don't care.
I've had enough of this now.
Enough of this. Book whatever. Yeah, Dana Brooke loses the belt. Ooh, and then Nikki Cross throws it in the trash. I don't really give a crap at this point.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of WrestleTalk Reacts. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, etc. We upload a bunch of wrestling news videos, one at least per day. So if you want to keep up to date with the latest in the wrestling world, subscribing is the best way to do so. I've been Chubba Peacock. I've been joined by Luke, ONDAD. And that was Reacting, Gem That Jam, etc.